Hey everyone, welcome to Lorecraft, where we deconstruct stories, explore creative perspectives, and dive into the magic of storytelling across books, movies, and games. I'm your co host, Ava Doe, a gothic romantasy author for the new adult audience.
And I'm your co-host Donnie, storyteller, designer, and creator of all things sci-fi fantasy powered by coffee.
This is a craft episode where we're going to be doing a teardown of the Oceans Trilogy. The Oceans Trilogy being Oceans 11, 12, and 13, and kind of covering, obviously, like what we like about it, the characters, the plot, the dialogue, the impact, what's working and what doesn't, and kind of like weave in our own
like perspectives on writing and
yes,
as relates to how we can take some of those concepts and apply them to our respective projects.
When it comes to the characters, let's say, which is like such like a big lifeblood of these movies, and I think like you and I have talked extensively about like, you have certain feels about 8 and the reboot that they might be doing because you feel like the character dynamic is just so strong. I completely agree. How do you feel like this trilogy makes us care about such a large ensemble of cast without losing the focus on individual characters? Because I feel like while I watch these movies, even though they keep on adding more people, and even the villains are their own characters, and then supporting characters outside of the crew and the villain themselves, they all have some sort of impact, and I don't feel overwhelmed. Why do you feel like that is?
This might be one of those scenarios where it really is up to the actors. They just, again, it's one of those like perfect forms. Like it would be almost impossible to get the same result with a different crew and whatnot. And maybe some of those like behind the scenes production value things that maybe went into that. But I think on this one, it's really up to the actors. Like you got the right people that just like naturally let it go. Like again, like even the other thing too that just is persistent through all 3 films is just like that little like Danny and Rusty just finishing each other's sentences and stuff, like these little clipped bits of dialogue that just like doesn't mean anything, but like it feels so natural, and like you really only get that if you like live with someone. I'm trying to think of like what scene in particular. I was rewatching the first one, and when Danny first goes to Rusty after he gets out of prison, he's like, I have a plan already. And just like that interaction in like that familiarity, I think that is what makes them so unique, is that they already have a history. I guess let me put it this way. They have a history prior to the movies, and I think that's why it feels so much more cohesive and doesn't feel overwhelming, versus we're meeting each of these characters for the first time and we're having to like learn with them, versus like they already know each other, but they're just coming together for the first time as we're seeing and experiencing it. And because think about it from like, say for example, with another movie with a large cast like Avengers movies or Marvel movies, each of those characters are new to each other, so they haven't like learned each other as they go along, and that's why sometimes it can feel kind of overwhelming where you have like all these different plots or whatever, the competing interests. Looking at you, Spider-Man 3, with Tobey Maguire, you have all these like character plot lines and sublines, but none of them have like a shared history. They're all clashing at once, whereas I think in Oceans what makes it work is that they already have they already have a history with each other prior to us seeing them. And I think that
when you say a history with each other, do you mean the actors have a history with each other, or you mean that
both, but
their
specifically
design
the character
background,
their character, specifically the characters
background.
themselves. Like
Okay.
yeah, like Danny and Rusty already know who Ruben is. They know who all the crew members are. I think maybe the only one they probably didn't know was using Yen. But everyone else, is either they know someone or knew someone. So like Linus's father, they knew Linus's father, not Linus himself, but like they're so tight that that's why. So I think that's part of it. When I'm thinking about your question, is what makes it work. How that could work in a story would be interesting. Of like how do you create that cohesiveness of all the characters without, I see what you mean, you have too many plots and backgrounds and motivations clashing together.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about like Mistborn right now, right? I finished reading Mistborn, and they also have to put together a crew, but I don't think it's as big as like 11 people. I think it's maybe like half of that, or maybe like 7 or around 7 total. And I feel like they do it in a third person perspective, which is helpful because head hopping between these many people could get really crazy. But I think another reason why we don't get lost in the minutia of like any one character overpowering the others is to do with what you were saying. Like, these actors have really good chemistry together. The background story of each of these lends well to them having their own personality, but also being really cohesive at the same time. But I also think about like the way that a movie can do a quick cut to another character without losing the context, right? Like, if you're writing a book and I want to do a quick, like, let me illustrate it to you. In Ocean's 11, when they are, you've discovered that they're the SWAT team. You see one quick snip of Saul going down the shaft himself. He's like this like fucking old ass guy, and he's like, oh my god, right? It's a quick 1 second, but it gives his personality and his character a little bit of a highlight, right? It's like a good balance between like the domineering, scenes of Rusty and Danny Ocean being like the main forerunners. Like, Rusty was just talking with Benedict for a hot minute, and then you see him going down the shaft. But doing that quick highlight on Saul's character was like a really good touch. And that's the part that I feel like is going to be really hard when writing a book, because you can't just do a quick touch. If you just like switch to someone else, I feel like, or maybe you could, but like, okay. I feel like it's a little bit harder to get that quick, snappy wittiness at that same reading speed that they do in a movie. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%, and I have somewhat of idea of it being, or examples of it being done. Again, I could talk all day about this guy because deeply influential, but Michael Crichton, the author of Jurassic Park, creator of ER, creator of Westworld TV show, really smart dude with the Harvard Medical School. Like, just go watch all his interviews. Just really intelligent guy. Made a lot of money with writing. And I'm rereading his book Next, which was the last book he published before he passed away in 2008. And Next has a ton of characters. Now, granted, it can kind of get a little bit lost in the sauce of like, who am I talking about, who I'm following? But one thing he does is that he introduces the characters and gives you really impactful and memorable moments with them very early on in the story. And then he figures out a way to give you like a really strong scene. If you have really strong scenes and really strong impacts and like really strong contrasting dynamics between them, I think it can be easy. Now, granted, his books are more like technological thrillers, so there's not a lot of like complex story building you need to bring in, like a magic system or maybe some sort of full creature. So it frees up the RAM of your mind of like having to like also think about like the lore, like Star Wars. But then you have all these complex characters. Like, you look at Star Wars by comparison, the character archetypes are extremely simple, but the context of the world is very vast and nuanced with, all types of, historical things that are very new to the reader. So I think in Michael Crichton's case, the contextual backdrop of the world is simple, and so it allows like these complex characters to kind of step forth in a diverse broad range of characters. Because in Next, it's basically, and this came about with the issue of patenting genes, which is a real issue and still ongoing, but definitely in modern technology in the 2000s. So basically, like biopharma or biotech companies would like patent genes and making like huge sums of profits. The universities were in on it, so basically, they basically get carte blanche to patent a gene, like some sort of therapy, and then also doing like transgenic mutations. So basically, putting like human genes in animals or animal genes in humans. So that was like, which is based on like real things that have happened, but he just put it as like a cautionary tale. Like, here's what can happen when you don't consider all these other factors. And so you have like the CEO of a biomedical company, you have like this lawyer and her father who are dealing with like the gene therapy issue. Then you have like this family, science guy who works at the NIH and did research. You have like all these like competing perspectives. And I think that he did a pretty good job of giving you a lot of that complexity in characters and snapping back and forth and whatnot. So yeah, highly recommend it as like a good example of like how to probably approach that problem of like cutting between scenes. I agree, it's so much easier in a film to visually go from like one thing to the other versus in a book. Like, if you cut to something else in the middle of a chapter, you're like,
it's jarring.
it can be jarring if not introduced early on from a pattern recognition standpoint.
I mean, I guess one way around it potentially is like the containment of it. I think is what might not be as achievable with the writing of it, because you can't unless you're writing from like a omnipotent third person kind of perspective, right? I'm going to be writing from first person perspective, and I feel like what you were saying about like, oh, you know, the context is a little bit more simple. There's not a magic system that's competing with the writing that Michael Crichton was doing in that particular book. I wonder if a way around it as well, since I'm writing in like first person, like present tense perspective, is the snappiness has to be within the scene, obviously, right? Like, you know, only as far as like your main character can see, but you can still have some of that cool you know, sub character or like other character perspective if they're in that same setting with them. But I'm not going to be able to be like, oh, you know, Saul went from here and now he's in an elevator shaft, and now we get to zoom in on his face and see that he's like struggling to get down the elevator shaft. I think it has to be a little bit more contained than how global it is with this kind of movie content.
I agree.
Okay. So, my question. Obviously, we love the characters, and we were just going through how like each character shines. It's probably, you know, a large part in terms of like the chemistry between the actors and stuff like that. But I think it's really hard to deny that like the stars of the show are obviously George Clooney and Brad Pitt, right? Yeah. Encompassing their roles as Danny Ocean and Rusty Ryan. How do you feel like, what makes them such a compelling duo, and how does their dynamic evolve over the trilogy?
I think you said it at the beginning of the stream of the recording, is that, you know, the CEO and COO is just like, that makes so. I'm like, all these years later, I'm like, oh, that makes so much more sense. It's like, that's how it is. And they even kind of call attention to it in the second one. It's like when Linus was like, when you have a problem, who do you go to? And everyone says Rusty, but Linus just says Danny or whatever. But again, I think, oh, man, I don't know what the relationship was like prior to doing the first movie. And when I'm, you know, since then they've done tons of films together and whatnot. But yeah, it was like a bromancery. I wouldn't be surprised they did live together for like a time before. Before they filmed.
You think that they're that close, that they must have had some, they must have at least did some method acting where we're like, we're gonna lock each other together. It's very
possible, because I remember Don Cheadle mentioning, you know, when they were filming the second one, that when they were in like the Amsterdam, like they had like their families there with them, like when they were recording. So it was like I said, it was a lot of them like together at the time. So I could possibly see that being the case. You know, they just like are around each other like for so long that it just naturally just comes off while they're so close together. Yeah, because again, that's a bromancery that's just like, I have a few of my close homies that we got that kind of like Danny Rusty dynamic, especially. But yeah, but it just comes from you just see eye to eye. I think it's like a values thing. Kind of take it in a philosophical sense. You know, if you see like eye to eye value based with someone, then you're gonna have that like close knit, you know, dynamic and relationship to where, you know, you can't answer someone's question because you know exactly how they're thinking. And whatnot, especially like I keep bringing up the second one, but or even like the third one when they're having like the issues with trying to get Willie Bank, like because he just has like all this like massive security, and I'm getting the scenes mixed up in which film it is, but I think it's the second one when they're on the couch and they're watching like Oprah or something like that, and he's like pouring the wine, and they're having like a conversation, but they're not really finishing
the wine bottle too.
Yeah, they're not really finishing. They're not really finishing their own sentences, but like they understand what the other is like talking about and thinking about. He's like, so I ripped the towel off, and she was like, maybe I was to America. He's like, what am I, a pancake eater? I was like, I don't know. It's like the way they just did those like scenes where like they're not even finishing having full on sentences, but like they understand the language between them two.
Saul makes 10. 10 ought to do it, don't you think?
I was like, they have to have like spent time together before the movie.
They probably
to a
spent
degree.
time before the movie, but I also think like obviously whoever was the screenwriter, the script writer for this, and like knowing these two were going to be able to carry that off, and like just the right amount of timing, the very well injected silence kind of thing, like speaks volumes between the two characters. And I feel like you're right. They share a lot of the common values, and where we see conflict between those two characters is where the values differ the most, right? Like thinking back to Ocean's 11, where I feel like it's rare for Danny and Rusty to not get along, but one moment that they don't get along is when Rusty realizes that Tess is in the picture, and he's like, tell me this is not about Tess, right? And so that there's like a difference in value right there, where it went from just like, this is a high stakes heist with a lot of potential, there's a lot of risk, but there's also a big potential payout for 11 people, to like, dude, you just brought in your ex, like what's going on here? Why didn't you tell me about this? Like kind of thing. We're not in alignment suddenly.
Yeah. Something else too, speaking of like when they do have like kind of like a disagreement in sorts, I'd have to think on other examples, but the other one that comes to mind is beginning of 13, where like they get stalled at the beginning of the movie, and Danny's like, we're stuck, and Rusty's like, we're stalled. So it's like, and they have to bring in his name, Roman Nagel, to like kind of be like the marriage counselor between them.
Exactly. It happens again when they have that difference. I think what is also working out for these two is the way that everybody else revolves around them, right? Like thinking about 12, that scene where, like, I love Linus's character, because like Linus comes off as a character where it's like he's competent, but he's not always confident, and he doesn't always like say the right thing. He's not at the level of like a Rusty and Danny in terms of like suaveness, right? And having this shit together. And when they put the three characters in the same room as Matsui, you know what I mean? Like they're doing that mind game. It's obviously designed to fuck with Linus, but he doesn't respond well to it. And I think that the foil of like basically the other characters' tropes and characteristics really highlight that Rusty and Danny work well, right? Because like Rusty and Danny, that entire conversation are in the know that like, Linus, you just called his niece a whore, or whatever they come up with as an explanation, right? But they're both like in that same like frustrated, exasperated, perplexed kind of attitude, without even having to like look at each other or say anything, and their silence speaks volumes. Whereas like Linus as a foil to that is like so different in comparison to them. It's like these two, they do it well, right? And like the rest, they're doing whatever they're doing.
And speaking of that too, it's even more illustrated at the beginning of 12, or after like after Benedict comes after him and gives him like the 2-week ultimatum, and they're not even complaining about the price tag or like what Tony Bennett would do to them. They're literally arguing over like who got the credit for like the name of the job. Like that to me just illustrates the whole working dynamic. That's like so funny. Is like they aren't really worried about like the fact that he found them all. They're arguing over the fact that like they got dubbed Ocean's 11. He's like, I'm a Bernie Mac's character, R.I.P. He's like, I'm a proper contractor. He's like yeah, that moniker is insulting. And then the Malloy twins, he's like, we just agreed to call it the Benedict job. It's just like, I don't know, they're just like arguing over like, who gets the credit for it. That to me is just like, just so funny.
That's exactly the attitude that we love, though, right? It's that like nonchalance, like the world could be over for them tomorrow if they literally got like snapped up by Benedict's guys, and they're over here arguing about what they call the fucking job and like how they're being publicized now. It almost reminds me of like Home Alone, where the two robbers at the end, they're like, why are you turning on the faucet? And like, why are you running the faucet? And he's like, oh, because we're the wet bandits. And he's like, I don't want to be a wet bandit.
Exactly.
It's the same
oh, that's
vibe.
That's such a good analogy. Marvin.
I have to look it up now, but last question about characters. I feel like, this is gonna be hard for me to find one. Are there any underrated characters in the trilogy that you don't think got enough credit for their role in the heist or the group's chemistry? I mean, obviously not everyone's going to be at the same level and same spotlight as like a Rusty or Danny, but that's kind of hard for me to say, because we were just talking about like how they do such a good job of like quick snips to like give people spotlight.
I felt maybe in the second one, Bernie Mac didn't get as enough screen film time as he did in the first one and the third one. I don't know if that was just because of his production schedule, because he was running his TV show during that. I grew up on Bernie Mac's Bernie Mac TV show, so one of my favorite actors and comedians and whatnot. And part of my reason why I'm like against them making another is like, just without the whole crew, man, I feel like it's too soon. But I think maybe in the second one specifically for him, but otherwise overall, no, I don't think there's any character to me that undershined. I think everyone had like the right amount of like screen time across the board. Even Vincent Cassel's character, I'm gonna blank on his name.
Francois.
Yeah, Toulour, the Night Fox. Even him, like he was another like crazy character in the second one with just like,
oh my god, like I feel like Toulour actually like shined a lot in 12. Like Benedict is like scary mobster vibes, right?
Yeah.
Toulour motherfucker is playing his own game. He's like doing that whole like dancing between the lasers and stuff like that.
And psychologically, just to like go off on a tangent a little bit, we can progress to the next topic. Some of like the psychological games in that movie were crazy, because it's the scene where they know there's cameras and they're like taking like the paintings out of his house, so he has all their faces. Yeah. So then he hands it over to Isabel, and then later on in the movie, and they do this very subtly. I think it was when he was like doing his like yoga stretches on the rooftop, and he has like cameras inside their warehouse where they're discussing the whole plan.
Yeah.
I'm like, that concept was like just like so like meta, and I was just like, who's like the game that like Danny and Rusty and the crew was playing, and then like against another thief was just like, I don't know, just mind boggling.
I think you hit that on the head so much so right now. I just had a revelation, right? Like a lot of what my book is about. Well, okay, not all of it, but at a certain point, it's red team, blue team, and I feel like it's exactly that thing that was happening in 12, where we're trying to outsmart one another, right? Like we think that we have the upper hand on each other, but actually someone else is like further along in a certain area, and so I think. Yeah, I'm gonna have to examine that a little bit more, and I do love that so much, where they were like literally so overt in giving the red herring to Toulour, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna steal it out of your house, and by the way, like I'm gonna be like face right here, like fucking flashlight in my mouth as I like take down the painting,
exactly,
like that. Like a very theatricized kind of bait, if you will, and yeah, I think that makes the tension just like so delicious in the way that they like cat and mouse game with each other. Like when Toulour calls Danny in the morning and like wakes him up a day and a half in advance of the heist. It's kind of like just that like insider thing of like, I'm gonna fuck with you, you're gonna fuck with me, and like, we'll see who comes out the winner at the end of the day, which is like exactly what I want for like red team, blue team, like penetration, defense, or in this way, it feels like they're having to do both at the same time.
Exactly. He's like, it's 11:30 the night before. He's like, oh, how many espresso did you have? Like 4.
5.
He's like, oh, he's just
here. Come in here.
Yeah, just come in. Oh man, that I forgot all about that scene. But yeah, again, it's like all these small little subtextual moments that just like build one after another that just, I think, just from like a stylistic vibe, and it's such a like a impactful film for me, but also just from a mood standpoint, it's just like like in the heist genre, but also this like suave stylistic approach to cinematography or storytelling. They just did these movies like perfectly.
Yeah. One more thing about character before we move on to plot. I think there's also something really powerful about like, this was an all-male crew. I feel like there is like a bit of like It's almost like boys talk, you know what I mean? Like that is the vibe
Okay.
that they were bringing through. Like I am just now thinking about it in terms of like, oh, in 12, yeah, they introduced Tess, but Tess isn't there until like later on when
Yeah,
she's called in to like play herself basically, right? But
exactly.
she wasn't there from the beginning like scheming. At the end, you feel like she might have been, you know, like when they show up to Tolor's house and they go like, "Oh, you know, like we'll be taking our money." It's a
Mhm.
pair of them. So they she did get clued in at some point, but along the movie you don't see her in the warehouse like being that person, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the same thing about 13. 13, is she more involved early
No,
on?
she's not. Remember, because like that was the whole premise of like 12 and 13, or 13 was just like it's not their fight. Like that whole dialogue at the beginning.
Oh, you're
He's,
right, you're right,
he's
you're
like,
right, you're
let's
right,
check
you're
this
right.
guy. Like, he's like, that's
You're
one of my
right.
favorite lines. He's like, it's not their fight. Whoa. He's like, oh, you know,
Yeah,
obviously, you know,
exactly.
from the script didn't call for it, which makes sense. You know, no purpose in like shoehorning a character or characters that don't necessarily serve the purpose of the script. So like, I'm not opposed to, you know, like why that decision was made, because like again, Julie Roberts and both Catherine Zeta-Jones, they were like, you know, they wanted more presence, but like the script didn't call for it, so there's no point in it being in it. But they even like address it in the movie in like a subtextual way, and whatnot.
Yeah,
But it's
I
interesting.
think that makes a big difference that it's
Yeah,
like mostly like an all male cast
yeah,
for
and you,
the trilogy basically.
yeah, and you said something that I never thought of before. You like, it's like boys talk, and maybe that's another component. And again, I haven't seen 8 for various reasons, but I feel like I would have watched it had they not called it Ocean's 8, if that makes sense,
Mm.
and whatnot. So, but I'd be interested because again, I love Charlie's Angels, and so I'm wondering like, do certain things work better depending upon like the sex of the character? Like, imagine like Charlie's Angels, but as like guys. Like, would that movie work? Like, if you have like 3 dudes that are doing like
Yeah.
spot, like, would it work? It was like, I'm always like questions. Like, I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't want to see like a male version of Charlie's Angels, just
You
because
know
like
what?
I don't know if
I feel like
maybe it could
Ocean's
work.
8 I feel like Ocean's 8 is a little bit more masculine than it is feminine. I'll say it
Mm,
like that, right? Like,
okay.
yeah, the costuming is feminine. The actresses, they're obviously feminine and stuff like that. But I would say that the dynamic is more male coded to me and more like more bro-y than in Charlie's Angels. I don't know
Yeah,
how to explain it, but I think that's the vibe that they wanted to carry over from the Ocean's trilogy. That it's a lot of like witty, snappy banter kind of thing.
mhm.
Um, yeah, that's very interesting. Moving on to plot, though, how do you think that each of the films in this trilogy managed to feel distinct while maintaining the core tone and the style of the series? I already have my answer.
Do you want to go? Because I may need.
Okay. I'll try to go. I think that like at its core, the expectations of the genre are being maintained.
Okay.
Problem: assemble a crew, tackle each problem small, disaster, make a better solution out of that. Bring the audience along for the entire thing. You have to have a plot twist at the end that the audience didn't see, but they could still connect back to, right?
Okay.
So I feel like in each of these trilogies, the problem changes, the crew increases and stuff like that, but they don't lose sight of that core thing. If anything, I feel like 12 would be one of the bigger outliers for me because I feel like so much was going wrong for them consistently, and I feel like they really look like they're in a bind whenever disaster strikes. Like I feel like 12 is one of those ones where it was like, dude, nothing is going right for y'all.
Heck
Like
no.
none of it is going right for you, and I feel like that was the biggest deviation, but they still didn't like, completely throw it out. So I feel like, sticking with those tropes is definitely helpful. But what I like that you brought up earlier is like the emotional impact of the problem is changing. Like in Ocean's 11, there's that like tryst between Terry Benedict, Danny Ocean, and Tess, right?
Yeah.
And then when you get into 12, now it's like about Isabel and Rusty and what's going on with them and how like, they couldn't be together anymore, so he thought, and so on and so forth. And then the third one is literally like the emotional impact of, we have a member of our crew that is suffering and we need to go
Yeah.
and do right by him. What's your take?
Repeat the question. I want to make sure I understand it one more time before I give my answer.
How does each film in the trilogy manage to feel distinct while maintaining the core tone and style of the series?
Yeah, it'd be hard to add anything more to than what you said, because again, it's very simple structures and straightforward. And I like what you said about the expectations of the genre. Like, they don't portray them in any of the three films. Again, two being, like you said, the outlier in the sense that, like, it's so all over I feel like they, out of the three, 12 is so unique because they like maximize like almost like the chaos of like everything going on. Like it's very messy, but it's in a good creative way. Well, where 13 they brought it back to like a specific target casino. You know,
like
one side
more
versus
contained, right?
Yeah, more contained, but they also like maximize the chaos in that because they were getting revenge. You know, because what happened to Ruben and everything.
They were getting revenge, and Talor was trying to get revenge on them too.
Yeah, and again, it's like when you think about all three of the movies put together, I don't know if this is an expectation of the genre the way you put it, but you could almost say, and maybe I think towards the end of 13 they kind of called attention to this. But it was always in Danny's control the entire time. Like Danny Rusty's control. Like they had everything covered. Like from the beginning, like it looks like they're going to lose, but they already had it like gamed out like from the beginning. And
I would argue to say that like they had to do it that way because like you have to believe the lie yourself, right? Like you have to go in and like, if anything, I feel like I'm thinking about like professional heists now. Not a professional, sorry, I've watched YouTube videos. This is my claim to fame. Anyways, like watch some content about like people who were professional robbers or like jewel thieves back in their day and like what they would do, and there is a certain amount of obfuscation of details with the crew on purpose, right? Like I don't know your name, you don't know my name, you don't know who we're about to hand it off to, or like the fence, if you will, like who's gonna sell our goods for us. You don't know that detail. It's an only need to know basis. So I feel like if we were to look at the Ocean's trilogy with that lens, I feel like there's a potential thing in here, detail in here that's not in the movies, where it's like Danny and Rusty did have it all planned, but purposefully left most of the crew in the dark so that their reactions would be as genuine as possible, right? Like, oh, we're all getting fucking pinched at the museum line, like none of us are getting in and stuff like that. Now we're in jail. Like realistic reactions, because like we have to sell this facade to Talora as well, that we're like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, we're like shooting ourselves in the foot kind of thing, to really make him go all in as to like, I have the egg, I have the real one, you guys have the fake one, kind of vibe, you know what I mean? And the same thing with the diamond at the end for like Ocean's 13, when he's trying to dupe them back. They have to make like a whole thing and subvert not only the audience, but subvert like all the villains and like the people around them, so they can have their own realistic like character arc and like drive that plot. Exactly. Yeah, it's like I said, the multiple layers of those three movies, man. It's a masterpiece on so many levels. It's absolutely a masterpiece. Like how the guy that's like the movie reviewer in 13. How they were the hotel reviewer. Yeah, because here's the thing, they're running like multiple scams back at, like that's the thing. It's not just like one scam. They're running like multiple scams at like a time. Like they had like across all three movies. They had the movie review. They had the hotel reviewer scam. They had the guy that Don Cheadle I'm blanking on their names. The motorbike. They had him, like they were scamming Willie Bank during that time. They had the diamonds with his chief of staff. You're talking about like evil Knievel vibe that Don Cheadle had to go in on and plant the seismograph thing. Yeah, they're running all these farces like they're just like overwhelming, and I think that's like some of the genius. Yeah, because even in 12 and even in the first one, they're running the scam with Frank as being like the inside guy inside the casino.
that they
Yeah.
use to then run the second part. So it's like they're just running multiple scams on top of one. Like it's not just one scam.
I
It's
think
like
that's like
this is a multi-layered scam that like
I think
when
that's got to be part of the trope too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's an expectation of the genre that like you're not only focused on one thing. There's a lot of like parallel threads going on,
Yeah.
which makes it really cool. And
Yeah.
now that you say that, I feel like that's how they're solving some of their disasters. It's not like the scam is going wrong. Let me put like a band-aid solution on it. It's like, no, I'm gonna have to develop a deeper scam
yeah.
to make it work, kind of thing. Which is so that's just so good. And
Yeah.
that'll be really interesting to tackle because again, like coming from the perspective of a book that I'm writing first person present, like how am I gonna do multiple scams within a book, especially if like I need a scam to solve a previous scam. If
Yeah,
that makes any
exactly.
sense. But like it's like a
Scamception.
scam Russian nesting doll.
Yeah, scamception.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
think of it like a scam within a scam within a scam. Like I said,
Exactly.
like when you really watch this movie, I need to get I don't have the DVD box set or Blu-ray box set. I would love to get like the physical set because I would love to watch those movies with the commentary to hear some of the like production, because that is a movie series, like a TV series. Like I want to understand just like how did you all think this stuff up, like from like the script and all these different just cultural things. That's something that and I'll probably speak about this in another episode, but the TV show Billions does really well, especially in the first season. Like it's like so many of these like meta references to things that just like, oh, I got what you did there, oh, I saw what you did there, that is persistent throughout the Ocean's trilogy. It's like all these like contextual meta references.
Seriously. Yeah, for sure. What is your take on the divisive plot of Ocean's 12? Like, bringing in Julia Roberts at the end with that twist. Do you feel like it worked as like a bold creative choice, or do you feel like it fell flat?
When you say divisive plot, were people complaining about that? I loved it, so I mean, I never had an issue. When you say divisive, I'm just curious as to.
You know what? I might scrap this question. I don't know what it means by divisive as well. Yeah, I might scrap that question. Okay, I'm gonna scrap that question.
Sure. We can insert
cut it out.
funny here.
Yeah. just do a blooper reel. Like, anyways.
Just insert a clip.
Yeah. For dialogue now, what do you feel like makes the dialogue in the Ocean's trilogy so sharp and memorable?
Let me think. The way one way that I've learned about dialogue, or a way to think about it, I can't remember her name, but she worked on Hogwarts Legacy. Her husband, she's a English like voice actor, producer, writer. Her husband is the voice actor for the Sorting Hat in the Hogwarts Legacy game. I was a part of a writing cohort, and the lead instructor was the former lead writer at Avalanche that worked on Hogwarts Legacy. And one of the modules we were doing, they mentioned writing from like start with like an emotion and let that emotion drive the dialogue. So that if you broke down the film, you could probably look at, okay, what is the emotion going on here, scene to scene, person to person, character to character, and I think that is what leads into some of like the dialogue that was made for the film. I think another thing is, and maybe you kind of said it here as well with you were watching like heist stuff, so maybe just like the criminal underworld and the way they think about things is what influenced some of the dialogue here. Because again, the setting, the backdrop is in like Vegas casinos, so like you're hustling, swindling, taking risk and whatnot, and some of that like adult playground dynamic, I think shaped a lot of the dialogue for these movies. And then third, again, I think it's just going back to what I said earlier, like those meta references. Like, when they're naming off all the different cons at the beginning of the like Ocean's 11, he's like, not to mention the biggest Ella Fitzgerald ever. It's just like you have to like go and like look up like what they meant when they were saying all these things. It's like all these like references to stuff. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, that's a good question. I have to like think more on that. But what would you say?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it's like the combination of like the colloquial casualness of their conversation as really established con artists, right? Like each person had their own background specialty, but they understood the dynamics of being in a crew without having to like spend a ton of time learning it from one another, right? Like
Yeah.
I feel like really the only novice of being in a crew was probably Linus. Everybody
Yeah.
else seemed to be like well versed in terms of like, this is what your role is, and this is like the vernacular that we use amongst the crew, and it's just like very natural. Whereas Linus is like the only one who's not really like catching up as fast. um I think it's also obviously the characters and their delivery. I feel like the casting of the characters really leaned into you know, like the actors' strong suits, right?
Yeah.
Like the way that Bernie Mac responds to conflict when he's like in the same room with Linus and trying to pull off like, you know, like role play in front of Terry Benedict, and you know, to the point of the way that Rusty and Danny are when they are on the same side trying to
Yeah.
convince someone else, like let's say it's Matsui, or let's say it's Ruben in Ocean's 11, or it's Talor's mentor in Ocean's 12. They just have like a really good way of like, it looks like a realistic relationship, and
Mhm.
it sells us on that immersion of like they've been friends for decades kind of thing, and
Yeah.
we don't even think too much about it. And I think that's the memorability of it, just like how natural it is and how effortless it feels to be in their shoes.
Yeah.
And I don't, there's just so many lines that we've been like quoting throughout this episode that like are absolutely stand out, and so good. How do you feel like the humor in the dialogue contributes to the overall tone of the films without undermining the stakes of the heists?
The humor and the tone. I think it prevents it from undermining it because it's so integrated almost seamlessly and perfectly throughout it. Like it doesn't feel, it doesn't take itself too serious. But it's not so goofy where it's just like you're taken out of the experience. It's just like it's very mature but also lighthearted, and you could say in one instance maybe like pulpy in essence, and whatnot. So very much I would say, if you look at maybe like Pulp Fiction, like certain parts of like Pulp Fiction is very like, you know, it's not too serious at moments. It's like, especially like the Vincent and Jules scenes throughout the movie, you know, that to me is what across all three of those films achieve, is that sort of like doesn't take yourself too seriously but just kind of has these like joking moments, but then also somewhat cerebral. So that, I think that's how they do it. Yeah, again, it's not some, again, it's the, to me it's the quintessential heist films, because it's not like brute force. Like you look at a movie like Takers or a movie like Den of Thieves 1 and 2, those are heist films, but they're heist films with like guns and seriousness and death and drama. Where like Ocean's not that. It's a suave poker, like, you know, jazzy sort of vibe to it.
Yeah, super jazzy, and it almost feels ad-libbed, right? Like not planned. And I think that's some of the magic of it. It feels like some things just like happen to work out, but actually they're machinated to end up that way.
Yeah.
And I think something that came to mind as you were talking about it, I don't think that I would consider Death Note a heist, but I'm thinking about it from the perspective of like, it's that cat and mouse kind of thing where we're trying to outsmart one another, right? Okay. So like we're scamming one another. So I'm seeing it from the perspective of a scam. And I think like Death Note is a touch few more shades serious than the enjoyment that I would get from something like Ocean's Trilogy, right? Like where everything is like super meticulous and perfect about Death Note, and the way that he executed like all these like FBI agents to die or whatever like that, like a little too serious for me, versus like the Ocean's Trilogy, there's still a lot going on and there's a lot of money on the line, and in some cases, you know, like people's lives and families and stuff like that, but they managed to keep it still lighthearted at the same time. And I wonder if it's also because like we can't forget at the end of the day they're criminals,
Yeah.
right? Like I almost feel like them living on, living day by day feels kind of natural for their job.
I have a response to, because a light bulb moment. I think it's because they have a code. That's what it. Like they have like a code of operating. Because remember when Roman says, you're analog players in a digital world. Like they just come from that block of like having like a particular code as con artists. Like they're not out to just like pillage, plunder, and looting and polluting, as I like to call it. They have like a code of just like this is the way we're operating. When they kind of stick to that unspoken code that
You're right.
Gels all that together. Gels the humor. It gels like not using weapons. It gels all that kind of stuff together. So I think
it's almost like a art, right? Like, and I think that's what they're railing like to lore about at the end about like wait no, railing Terry Benedict about of like breaking the code when he like sells him out or something like that in the middle of the heist, tries to do a double cross, right? And I feel like when we see it from that perspective of more of it being like a creative endeavor or like an art as to like how good could we make this heist, how much money could we get out of it, how smart could we have been about it, it feels like for art's sake we need to do it a certain way, and it's enjoyable, it's creative, versus this being something like a detective movie or something like that where everything's like super serious and stuff like that, and that is their code.
Like life, like again, it doesn't have that, all the tone of the movies, it doesn't have that life or death, like sort of, with the exception maybe like the second one. It doesn't have like, the movie's not set up with like, if they lose, things die and people's lives it's not like a Breaking Bad sort of tragedy. It's very much
like implied that it's gonna happen, but it's like veneer right behind.
Exactly, yeah. And you can tell, because even, again, I keep bringing up the second one, at the beginning of the movie, Danny's like almost bragging. He's like, I was in a bank once that was getting robbed, and whatnot. So for them, it's like a code, it's like a way of being or existing. And I think that's what makes it different versus like even Talur. He aspires to be that like Danny and Rusty and the crew has, but like he's just missing that one piece from it. He's like, he might be the best like thief, but he's missing that one critical element that they all have when it comes to the code. Because they even mentioned like he broke rule number 1. He broke the code. So it's like for them, they kind of stick to their code of like professional thieves, or con artists, or whatever. That I think is what works between all of them and what connects them as characters.
I think there's almost like a jealousy between those characters, right? Like as well. And like I think like I would love to do a little bit more analysis on each of the characters, because I think there's something really special about the way that they're all working. I know we've talked about characters like inside and out in this episode, but like not everyone can be a certain type, right? If Ocean's 11 was a crew of nothing but type A's, it would probably be a very different movie, right? So there's a combination of like different personality types and archetypes that are working out here. And I wonder if that's kind of like the point in Ocean's 12, where like Talur is the Night Fox and he's working as the lone wolf on against an entire crew against him, right? And I feel like in order to like have that kind of code and that kind of banter, it's implied that you have a crew with you, right? Someone to riff off with. It's not as fun to like watch one person be amazing. And maybe that's exactly what I mean about like Death Note. Death Note is about basically mostly one main character to start out with, right? One main character with all that power doing their thing and being clever and outwitting people, but it doesn't feel as like doesn't feel the same, even with his death god right behind him. They can have conversation, but it doesn't feel the same way as like the scammy kind of wittiness that we get in Oceans, because they have like so many people to be around.
Exactly, I would agree. And that's an interesting parallel between like Death Note, Cat and Mouse, versus like the Ocean Trilogy, Cat and Mouse. Kind of story structure or dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. obviously, I think the reason why we picked this trilogy to talk about in a teardown is because it's had a crazy cultural impact. But how have you felt, after Ocean's Trilogy came out? How have heist movies and films and other media like tried to resemble it or be influenced by it after?
I don't know if I've seen any other movie try to replicate what Ocean's had. Maybe the exception being maybe The Italian Job, because I know it came out somewhere in the midst of, I think, the second or third movie. But with The Italian Job, I've only ever seen like really one time, but it kind of followed that. Even the underlying structure and premise of Oceans is so fundamentally different than, like I said, even with Heat and Italian Job. Like, I feel like Italian Job is very like concrete. Like, you got like the guy he plays in the Hunger Games, like the evil white dude. But you got like his characters kind of like father figure, and then like you got like the main guy, and then you got like the helper, and then you have like the betrayer of the team. And I think that might be another thing too that's missing, because even in Heat, their crew, one of them betrayed them, but in Oceans, none of them got betrayed by any crew.
Yes, except for like the last one with Terry Benedict trying to do a double cross. But he's not quintessential part of the crew.
Yeah, so I think that's something that's fundamentally different from other heist films. If you called out some heist films, I could probably break it down, but I can't think of any movies that have come about that even reach to that level.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, because I don't think so. Like Mission Impossible 3, but that's like a spy film, but it has elements of a heist in it. Even the fourth one, where they're in Dubai, those two in particular have like a very like heist elements to them. Maybe two with well, say 1 through 4 have specific elements of like heist stuff in them. I think 3 and 4 have like the deepest levels of it, with like the rabbit's foot or whatever. But the only other media, because not specific to film, that comes close that I can think of, obviously, is Uncharted. But it's more treasure hunting. But specifically in the second one, there is like a heist element, because you play through the whole 3 to 4 levels at the beginning of the game where it's like a heist. But again, Nate gets betrayed by his partner at the time, which I think that's something that maybe is part of like the general genre expectations, is like someone in the crew betrays the rest of the crew, and now they have like a falling out. Or in Oceans, you just didn't, like I said, you don't see that happen out of the core members. Like,
yeah. I actually like that more, because I think as the audience, I don't want to be mad at the crew. I want to root for the crew the whole time, kind of thing. Like, I wonder if like if we were to think about like the heist genre overall, if that is actually one of those like expectations, that there is some sort of double cross that happens from like a trusted character, and that's a thing. But the Ocean's Trilogy makes a point to be like, the core 11 or 12, they never betray one another, and that's what you love it for, almost. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that might lend into like that campy feel of like, this is a safe group to be with, you know what I mean? And you feel like each character can really be themselves around each other, because they know inherently that they're like trusting one another, and no one's going to be double crossing them. And I feel like that's true amongst the
only other movie that I think is in the same category as Oceans, but even though it's very different, is the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie, because that one's also a heist movie, like the way it's structured. But again, it has some of those betrayal themes, because like they're each member, between like Jack, Will, and Commodore Norrington / Lord Beckett, are all like fighting for their own stakes in the prize of Davy Jones' locker. But that entire movie is basically a heist film on the high seas. But again, it has the element of betrayal, because if you think of like Jack's crew as being like Danny's crew, who betrays him and later on in the movie, it's Will, because he wants to free his father. So that's another, or like the next closest movie I can think of.
I feel like that's like that might be like a cool, purposeful like element removal to drive a certain attitude, right? That it's not as serious, if you will, because I think back again, that's what I didn't really enjoy about the Italian Job, that there was some sort of double cross. It was early on, and I think like, you know, the amount of violence kind of like took the levity out of the room, if you will.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Ocean's trilogy is nothing but it's not nothing but like there are stakes, but there's just so much funniness and humor and cleverness that has space to live there, because I think they don't have to push that limit of like that like awful feeling of your best friends like betraying you in some way.
And maybe that too is what is so different, is the fact that, you know, if you look at Oceans, it's all about like the heist and overcoming those challenges from, you know, that lie behind the target and whatever it is on the other side of that goal. Whereas in most other heist films, there's a heist, it either goes really good or really bad, but someone betrays someone in the mix, and then it's like the rest of it is about like getting revenge against that, or coming out from up underneath like the revenge. So I think that is like the divergent, whereas like Oceans kind of goes like straightaway across, where like most heist films have like a dip here and, you know, plot point up here of, you know, betrayal or the job goes horribly wrong or whatever, and then boom boom boom, where, you know, Ocean was just like, again, it was all these perceived problems, but for the most part it was all like, even with like Bruiser at the end of the first one, like you think Danny's getting beat up, but like even he was in on the scheme. So it's just like, and he's the lawyer in the second movie, you know, for Frank. So it's like everyone,
many layers.
So that's what I mean, like it's just like all these parallel scams that all seem like they're problems, but in some sort of way, you know, most of them are like already baked into the scheme itself.
And
everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a masterful piece of art, for sure. I want to move on to the last portion of this. Are there any missed opportunities or weak points that you feel like that trilogy could have improved on?
Maybe some of the meta games that were happening in 12 with Toulour. So like, for example, when they're at Lake Como at the end of the movie, and it's just like Danny and Tess sitting on his couch like waiting for him, and he's explaining to them like they actually had the real egg all along, and the warehouse code, like how Toulour knew the warehouse code, which I can only assume was because he had cameras in their warehouse where they were planning this heist. So just some of that, it's not like a missed opportunity or bad, but like I felt like maybe that is the magic, it's in them not explaining, but some of that would have been nice to make, because sometimes you can get confused as like, how did Toulour know all this stuff? Some of that they like leaked information to him to throw him off the scent, but it's just like, how did he know that? I think that would be like the only like weak part of the movie. But
I tend to agree.
Yeah,
I think like 12 is, if I was to, and we're probably gonna have to talk about this later in terms of like which one would be our favorite. I mean, I think the answer is really obvious. I'm not gonna spoil it because we'll talk about it in a second. But I think 12 is one of the more confusing ones for me out of the trilogy, because of how many places that they have to go. That's one. And the fact that there is like basically another crew working against them in the form of one person, and you don't really get to see them make all their things that happen, right? Whereas in 11 and 12, it feels very much like it's us against the system. It's us against this like set of circumstances, and for us to outwit, right? That feels very like red team, blue team, like. But with 12, it's like red team, and you don't get to see one side of the red team scheme, and that I agree with you. It does feel like a little bit of a miss, and I think like when I watched 12 for the first time, I was like, there's just so much going on here that I like it warrants a rewatch, and maybe in that sense, it's already achieving its goal. Like you want to rewatch it for the purpose of like really understanding it. But in 11 and 13, it's like a holistic package where you can walk away from it and be like, I understood that, and I will still go back and rewatch it because it was just so enjoyable. 12, it's like, I don't know if I was smart enough to get how you went from this to this kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I think that's some of like that intentionality of 12 in particular, is that misdirection all directions, where like the misdirections kind of in 12 and 11 and 13 are kind of like just one direction and very, very linear, where 12 is like misdirection and all over the place. And then it kind
Yeah.
of comes together, you know, loosely at the end. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yes, you did.
yeah.
You got us. You got us.
Okay. My question for you to wrap this up is, which of the trilogies is your favorite? And then which of the characters is your favorite? You can only choose one.
I'm gonna be that guy. If we were on, for those who know what the Drink Champs podcast is, they do these kind of like Q&As where if you choose one person, you take a shot, or if you're not. If I was on Drink Champs, I'd be taking the shot because I would say all three of them. Like I love them equally. Because I feel like it's one complete. I feel like it's one complete package.
You gotta choose
if
one.
I had to, and again, I love them all for different reasons. Like I think the first one's like perfect across the board, like no issues. 13 very much so in the same vein. But like they just maximize the chaos for their target so much more. They hit his rep. They take more than just his money in 13, which makes it
My
like
diamonds.
yeah, which makes it like, you know, that much more like chaotic, and just like how they just pulled like a 360 whopping on this dude. Terry was just like, we just hit his pockets and he got his wife back. 12 stylistically 12 was very interesting. Again, it was the first one I watched, and I like it similarly to some extent. The dynamic relationship of like Rusty and like his motivation. It has also probably the best music out of the three, if I had to argue. Like let me take that back. Some of the more memorable songs, like the scenes where Rusty is watching Isabel from a distance and is playing Crepuscolo su Mare, which is like Moon of the Ocean in Italian. Just a beautiful segue, you know. Obviously, the laser dance song from Toro's like movement through the museum at night. Again, there's just so many moments. So if I had to choose, I probably would choose 12, just because like I relate to like the whole Rusty and Isabel romance like dynamic. You know, they shown in the movie. It's just like it never gets old.
Yeah. Favorite character?
Favorite character. Maybe. Oh man, I love Livingston Dale's character a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, man, let me think through this one. This one's gonna be challenging, because like I love the moment, because I was having this kind of like creative moment a couple weeks ago. I might even called you about this. I can't remember, but in 13, when Livingston's like sitting in like their base camp motel with like all the equipment that he's like supposed to be like hacking, and he's like calling Nagel. He's like, Nagel, he's like, I need some help, but like don't tell.
I have a problem, and you know, I heard that you might be able to help me out here. Anyway, give me a call back, and that's like 619 blah blah blah. Like
exactly. Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, I was like, I felt that moment. So I love how like Livingston's like this like nervous wreck of a character, all throughout all three films. I don't know, maybe the Amazing Yin. I don't. Oh, man, it's so hard. Cause that's the other thing too that just makes Ocean so different. Sorry, there's like a mosquito in here. That's what makes it so funny is that like, and we didn't even talk about it. I'm surprised it didn't even come up. Like, Yin doesn't speak any English except for cuss words in all three movies.
Shit.
And everyone understands him. Yeah.
Oh yeah, just the inherent that everyone is fluent enough to understand Mandarin, colloquial Mandarin too. He's not dumbing down any of it either.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah.
He's like, you try convincing him next time.
Oh dude, it's actually so funny because like in 12, like his opening scene is like him in his penthouse and him arguing with his white wife, and he doesn't speak English to his wife either. It's like,
yeah, it's so
funny as hell.
Yeah, it's like, yo, it's so like, again, this is one of those like perfect like things they did in the movie.
That's so true.
So yeah, like Livingston, Yin, let me think, Turk and Virgil. Turk had some. I get it mixed up. Which one's Virgil is the one that was always like crapping on. It's Casey Affleck's character that was always. I think he's Virgil. I feel like he always crapped on Turk a little bit more. So maybe.
Did he?
maybe Turk. Yeah, because like you remember like when they were in the beginning of 11.
You're right. Turk does give Virgil a harder time. Like
So
Turk
Virgil,
being Scott Caan. Yeah, Scott Caan is Turk.
Okay,
Virgil
okay,
is
okay.
Casey Affleck.
Okay, yeah. So Turk, yeah. I feel like Virgil's always crapping on Turk a little bit more.
Turk ran over fucking Virgil's little toy car.
Gucci car, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
oh.
Yeah, he crapped on him at the dinner. You know what was it in 12 or when they were in the back of the van in 11, and then in 13 when Willie had tapped into the FBI database and he's like pulling all their profiles and like we need someone to do it and Turk's like I got it. He's like anyone else and Virgil's like I can do it. He's like, and they basically just like ignore Turk for Virgil. So I don't know, maybe Virgil because he has some good one-liners. He's like I'm gonna get out of the car and drop you like third period French. So I don't know.
Yeah,
like I said, it's so hard, man.
It is a little bit hard. I think like Virgil also has like such a funny character arc in 13 where he gets like really invested in like the Mexican workers like plight for more money and he manages to do it and deposit the magnetic powder at the same time. It's like he is a really classic character for sure.
Okay, I'll do it by movie because it might be easier for me to do it by movie than overall. Okay, so I had to choose from 11. My favorite character probably would be Danny in 11. 12. It might either be Nagel's character. Because I do like Nagel, or Livingston, and then in 13, it might. I can't say because it would be too many. Because it might be Linus, because he does like the whole like heist to get Isabel, what's her name? The secretary.
I know who you're talking about. Basically, like Willie's right hand.
Yeah. He's like putting the moves on her. She's like falling in love for him. So yeah, I don't know. It's so hard. I love them all for different reasons. It's like trying to choose your favorite child. It's like you're all my favorites. How about you?
I feel like I was gonna go with Ocean's 11 being my favorite, but I will say I think Ocean's 13 is probably my least favorite. I think mostly because we had seen it before, basically, right? But at a higher stake, at a more emotional impact. It feels like a rendition of Ocean's 11 with more characters and more background and more steeped history into it as to why we care. So that's why I would rate it a little bit lower. I feel like I really did enjoy 12. My only gripe about it is I wish I like we had just said, I wish I had seen a little bit more of, you know, the red team side from Talore's perspective as to how he did the cool things that he did, right? Because I think that in itself would have extended the movie maybe too much, but would have appreciated that. But I think that 12 was like that breath of fresh air without taking away from like the beauty of 11. If I had to rewatch one over and over again, it would probably be a toss up between 11 and 12. I think I'm gonna go with 12 as well.
Okay, I generally, for me, anytime there's like a trilogy, I generally like watching the middle movie of a trilogy because I'm always like sad that like the third one's like the last of a movie. So I usually like Lord of the Rings, I'll rewatch like the Two Towers like all the time because it's like as much as grand of an epic ending as Return of the King is in Lord of the Rings, I'm always like sad, like, oh, it's the ending, like you gotta close everything up.
Like you don't want it to be over. You don't want to have to see the end. Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah,
because like 13 visually, I think 13 is a much more dynamic, visually made film than 11. But I'm always like sad that like it's the end of the movie and like they're going their separate ways. So that's why I usually watch 12 like a lot, everything. But yeah, 13 I just enjoy like the cinematography of it all. But sorry, continue with your favorite characters.
I think I'm gonna have to give it to Linus.
Okay.
Linus throughout the entire trilogy is my favorite one because I think that like the power of his humor when he's on screen is awkwardness. Right? is honestly awkwardness, and I think like being the butt of the joke. In a different way than like the Malloy brothers, like Virgil and Turk are going to rib each other. I feel like Linus, everyone is ribbing Linus, including the fucking plot itself, right? Like thinking back to 12, where he's like getting arrested by his own mom and dad and having to get bailed out by them. I think it's just like so true to his character that it's like, man, why can't I just, you know, strike out on my own? Why can't I be a Rusty? Why can't I be a Danny? And it's just like so endearing and funny to see him go through this, but also use it to like a devastating ability, right? Like he's actually, I feel like he's one of those people in the movie that is so unlike a Rusty or a Danny, but has to be like a front-facing person. So I mean, I would also say that Livingston Dell, for instance, is nothing like a Rusty and Danny, right? But Livingston is a little bit more behind the scenes kind of thing with everything that's going on, whereas Linus is in that middle ground where it's like I could be more public facing if I had to be, and he has to be sometimes, but it's almost that disarming like fly on the wall kind of vibes that he gives that makes him an effective part of the crew, if you will. And in real life, like spy situations, I think that's actually what they look for. They don't want someone who is going to be like noticeable, astonishingly beautiful, astonishingly handsome or something like that, because you'll be remembered later. You need to blend into the crowd, you need to like be funny but like forgettable and just enough to get the job done. And I think that's why I particularly like Linus, because he's that comedic relief, but it's just enough to make you feel like he's just a side character, but before you know it he's like in pretty deep and stuff. So that's why I like him.
I couldn't agree more. I always love in 12 when, you know, because again they constructed that the opening of 12 so geniusly, of like you see Terry coming after each member of the crew, and they're in the car, but he's just reading the newspaper, and it is not even the fact that that Linus is like upset that Terry found him. He just is like, he doesn't want his rep tarnished because then it'll get back to his dad. So he's basically just like, and please don't tell my father about this. He's like, get out of my car, Linus.
Exactly.
So, like, that's why, it's you're not wrong there. And he's pretty much like the greenhorn, like the newbie of the entire crew, because he's like, again, he's like stepping to that role, like he's like a leadership position. Versus behind the scenes with like Livingston being like the nerdy tech, like, you know, guy who's always like having like one step away from a nervous breakdown and everything. But I'm trying to think. Maybe I'll probably relate to Rusty out of all of them across the board. Something about like just like his method of like the way he looks and thinks about the world, and like I said, the things behind too. In general, probably who I relate to most. But as far as the comedy, probably Turk, and just how like Livingston's like I said, step away from a breakdown, and obviously Yin's character is just he's the grease man that doesn't speak a lick of English except for cuss words. Yeah, it's so good. Well, that wraps us up basically for this teardown of the Oceans trilogy. For those that are listening in, hope you enjoyed it and, you know, got a little bit of insight as to like our creative process, our methodology, and the way that we're trying to like problem solve and bring elements of the things that we like into our creative work. Thank you all.